Hello, and welcome to another Cloud Podcast, a podcast designed to bring you stories from the smartest minds in IT, operations, and business, and learn how they're using cloud technology to improve business and the customer experience. All right. Well, welcome to another Cloud Podcast. We're excited today, as always, because I've got my co-host, Artie Kasaboom. Good to see you, Artie.
Yeah, great to be on. Thanks, Alex, for hosting this one. And we're looking forward to talking a little bit more with Jessica Voss from SupportLogic. Jessica, welcome to the show.
Yeah. Hey, everyone.
Hello.
So happy to be here with my two favorite people.
Well, I love your LinkedIn little description. It's a customer support guru. You're a podcaster yourself, speaker. It just says it all right there. So what we always like to do is just give a little background about you, how you got into this world of tech and customer support, and eventually how you ended up at SupportLogic.
Yes. And from my LinkedIn buddies, I am known as the cloud CX guru. I've actually had that tagline for a long time. I think I was on LinkedIn before LinkedIn was popular. And I remember when LinkedIn was created, people were using it for their resumes. And I said, that's it. Why can't people, promote themselves, brand themselves, and create thought leadership within the LinkedIn network? So I was doing that way back in the day. Now it's everywhere. But a little bit about myself is I've been in the contact center tech world 20 plus years, and I got 50 gray hairs.
Just 50.
As a result. That's it. 50. I count each one every morning. Hopefully they go down. But I've been in the sales roles, consultant roles, with many different companies around technology, contact center, AI. I've had my own nonprofit businesses. I also created, or one of the creators of a technology place called Cloud Tech Gurus. Mm-hmm. And I also host a podcast for contact center leaders called the Contact Center Gurus. So as you can see, I have a little theme going on around being a guru.
Yes, you absolutely are a guru. You are a guru. So tell us a little bit about SupportLogic and what you guys are doing there in this whole world of CX and support.
Yeah, so SupportLogic approached me. I've only been here probably 4 months, and I'm on the sales and channel side. And they approached me, and I never heard of them. Who's SupportLogic? Because I run around talking to many AI solution providers, contact center providers, support and service providers, and I never heard of them. So they intrigued me. So I looked at them initially. And I'm like, oh, okay. So SupportLogic's like an analytics provider. No, we're not just analytics provider. Okay. SupportLogic is like a predictive analytics provider. No, we're not like just a predictive analytics provider. So as I dug in a lot more and obviously joined on to their team, I realized what they created was amazing. So they actually created the world's first SX platform, support experience platform. Okay. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. So what they do is they provide a AI, NLP, and machine learning. So multiple layers of NLP, AI, machine learning. And they extract the voice of the customer, just like other analytics providers, they do. Over support and success departments that use cases or tickets or digital interactions, and they extract that information and pull out all kinds of unstructured data and create structured data. One could be escalation prediction, so predicting if a customer is going to escalate, predicting if a customer is going to churn. Other signals and keyword extractions could be based on product, customer sentiment, agent sentiment, all kinds. And I won't go down to the full list, but you guys can check it out on the website. But it's taking that data and then also helping create workflows. So if you think of management in a support and success world, It could be a QA manager. It could be a frontline manager. They're looking at all kinds of reports. And nowadays, most managers, they need help. There's all kinds of data floating around, big data this, big data that. A lot of them are looking at historical data, whether it's, QAing call recordings or QAing digital channels, it's still historical. The newer thing is on real-time insights, real-time alerts, real-time QA. So that's something SupportLogic brings to the table is real-time, insights, alerts, even analytics, and it goes above that. But I looked at that and I'm like, wow, that's interesting. And I correlated to my world. So we're all customers of someone, right?
Yep.
We do business with many companies ourselves. And I will never forget this one experience I had with a healthcare insurance provider where I was submitting a claim, and that, creates a case and a workflow for the agent. And long story short, I was going back and forth with different agents explaining my case. And I need help, ! Hey, I've already sent you this information. Why are you asking me again? And all I would get was apologetic responses from the agent. And I feel bad because I live in the technology world and I know it's not necessarily the agent's fault, but sometimes limitations on the technology that they have. Anyways, 2-3 months went by. My problem's still not resolved. And in my messages back to them, I'm furiated, and you could tell, capital letters and everything. And I'm like, okay, forget it. I'm done. I can't exhaust any more energy on this. Now, so I will never do business with it again. And I won't say their name. But what would have saved me as a customer is if a manager got those insights and alerts saying, hey, this customer might churn, or there's an escalation coming. You might want to jump in. If a manager jumped in and said, whoa, Jessica, I see what's going on. Oh my God, let me help you. Let me resolve that. Something happens to the mindset of customers when they're talking to someone with authority that tells them they're going to help you and work on it. It's like an immediate, shift from negativity to relief to, okay, I'm happy. Yes, I had a problem, but they're going to resolve it. And hopefully that manager would have resolved it and they would have saved me. So now take my situation, and that's something SupportLogic helps customers at. But imagine if it was large B2B customers. So let's say Salesforce. And Salesforce had their VIP customers, B2B, whatever, Walmart or whoever, Apple is their customer. And they applied those same, let's say issues or interactions. Salesforce wants to jump in there because if that customer churn, that's huge revenue money that could disappear. And I even found some customers, most of their revenue is coming from like 3 companies or the majority of the revenue. Large customers. So it's really looking at protecting that customer lifetime value by leveraging AI, NLP, machine learning, and turning unstructured data into structured data, and also incorporating workflows. So that was a long-winded answer.
That was very detailed. Very good.
So what SupportLogic does, but it's the theme is moving from reactive to proactive. Reactive is all about transactional, apologetic responses. Some customers are extracting the voice of the customer via CSAT surveys. CSAT surveys are old school to me. Most companies get less than 10% response rates, and they're banking their CSAT and NPS scores on a very, very small percentage. Well, okay, your CSAT score is 95, but that's based on 8% survey response rate. What if your CSAT is 60%? Because there's a lot more unhappy customers. Or what if it's 99%? There might be a lot more happier customers. So it's really truing up, leveraging the voice of the customer into a proactive customer experience.
Yeah, you've said a lot, and you've got a lot to unpack in that. So let me try
Sorry.
to take no, it's awesome. Let's try to take it piece by piece. So Alex and I were on a podcast earlier this year, and we heard the phrase that data or big data is the new oil. What oil was to the Industrial Revolution is what data is to the technology revolution, which is where we've been in the 2000s, and for the last 20 plus years everything has turned into a cloud internet company, and everything also runs on big data. And that's why Facebook is now Meta, and they have all these
Yeah,
data
the metaverse.
It looks like you're in it right now, Jessica.
I know. Metaverse gurus.
So let's talk about that, because organizations, whether they're big or small, whether you're the VP of customer experience at Salesforce or the VP of customer experience at a mom and pop shop that sells candles online, you're sitting on this mountain of data, and it's like crude oil. Like it's there, it's valuable. You just have no way to refine it to gasoline. Like you don't even know where to even start. Like it's just like this black stuff sitting on the ground. So SupportLogic is a great tool to be able to refine that. Take unstructured data, turn it into structured. Also give them best practices of what to do with that data and who to deliver it to, giving them workflows. So it's not only just the tech side of the house, it's also the process side of the house, so that there's some really obtainable business outcomes that come from it. So let's talk about the business outcomes, the like end results, because that's what we all like. That's especially a lot of the people listening. They're probably trying to figure out, how do I sell this internally to an executive of mine? So let's talk about using that data in maybe a proactive way to prevent churn. Do you have any examples of what maybe some of your customers do today, or your experience in the past of how you actually get a business outcome from it?
Yeah. Let me break it down. So first off, a company's revenue in general, 75% of it comes from the service side. So service could be success, support, every company has their own, title, but it's really 75% of that revenue. So we want to look at, how do we protect that revenue? And a company's ultimate goal is to not have a support team. I'll repeat that. A company's goal should be to not have a support team. You want to sell a solution. You want customers to be self-sufficient. A lot of companies are looking at FAQ, AI, fronting conversations, AI, RPA, workflow management. They're looking at a lot of automation to get to that self-sufficiency for customers to solve their own problems with whatever they need to be solved with. So that's kind of the ultimate goal. Is it reality? Probably not. A lot of customers, still want to talk to real people to solve their problem, like my example. And customers also have escalations. Like my example should have been an escalation to a manager. That agent, seeing how frustrated I am, seeing I'm getting nowhere, they should have at least brought in and escalated it to a manager. And what companies do is they leave that decision usually to the agent, whether to escalate or not, where a manager basically doesn't see a lot of that data. So some of the results is, one, a company first needs to understand what, not just escalations, but what are escalations costing your company? A lot of times escalations go all the way up to the C-level. So those escalations usually cost $50,000 or whatever that number is. Sure. A lot of times companies need to understand what their support team costs or their success team costs, and look at, okay, how can we, shave off, a few dollars or get a hold of it and turn it away from being a cost center to that, proactive center. So some of the results are pretty significant with SupportLogic because we're actually doing something. We actually don't even have a competitor in our realm right now, knock on wood, our competitors are, hey, we do a little bit of this, we do a little bit of that, we do a little bit of this. A lot of companies using AI, NLP, machine learning. But the results are pretty significant when you look at it. So usually customers see an improvement of in about 3 or 4 months. We see on average a reduction in customer churn by 40%.
Wow.
Which is huge when you equate what those customers' lifetime value is. We're seeing a 30 to 40% reduction in customer escalations. Once again, it equates to what are escalations costing you. But there's some key factors that many companies may not be measuring is how long does it take us to resolve an issue or a case, whatever a company wants to call it.
Yeah.
And we're able to, we call it case review time, and we're able to help them reduce that by 60%. Or some companies call it mean time to resolution. Everyone has a number. So it's usually 50 to 60%. And that's probably the biggest ROI. The reason is because the longer your support management team take to resolve an issue or a case, you're going to have cases increase. So what companies do is they hire more people. Oh man, we're getting killed. I have a backlog of 100 cases I need to resolve. Okay, let's hire more people, more agents, more managers. We need to get a hold of that. So their costs of their support center, the operational costs, are increasing dramatically. And so what people do is they kind of feel like they're in a tornado. And it's a little bit, a chaos on figuring out how to tackle that. But I would say those would be the key, indicators. And the ROI is probably, in the millions that we've seen with companies.
Yeah. What I found interesting was when you talked about the NPS and how like maybe 8% of respondents come in and say you're at a score of 85 or whatever it might be, and you just don't know what the other 92% of your client base feels, and it can be the variance can be huge, right? How, when you compare it and you bring in what you guys are doing, like are you alleviating the gap of those 92 and being able to take all that data that RD was talking about and say, okay, your true NPS is really here versus what your actual survey scores were?
Yeah. So we pull in a customer's CSAT or NPS scores, pull it in. We true it up with our voice of the customer. So we're extracting every voice of the customer, interaction, taking that and giving them a score, a voice of the customer score. And some customers, we've seen dramatic numbers. Like their CSAT was 80%, we saw 63% in VSC. Some customers were right on board. I've seen it. Hey, we're at 92. Okay, ours is saying you're at 93. Yay for you. So it's actually I've seen variety for customers, but it's valuable because then you can base your business decisions on that. Okay, there's a 20% swing. What's going on? Let's look in SupportLogic and look at the key indicators, key signals, key issues, and let's work on that. Another part customers use is on understanding the information from a product standpoint. A lot of people, they voice frustration if you sell a product within their, support case to you. Hey, I'm having an issue with this. Oh, I wish you guys could do this. Because you can't, I'm going to cancel. Can you please cancel me? A lot of times the product team, it's called product delayness. And I think I just made that up. But the product team, they don't see those insights real time.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't see the insights at all. Usually agents have to say, oh, look at this, guys. Or they have to do a disposition and maybe that gets sent to product. but product teams can be immediately alerted, or we call it swarming. You can swarm in different team members and jump on that, be like, hey, jump on this, guys. So that's part of that big data conversation on taking unstructured data and creating data with workflows.
Yeah. And where really quick, already, like where I see it too is like if you're making big business decisions off of 8% of the respondents, there's a lot of risk there. And so just the fact that having the voice of the customer, a true lens to look through, saves, I mean, it's hard to measure until you can actually get in there and do it. But like, there's some big risk factors that you're taking away just in business decisions that executives have to make.
Yeah, I've seen so much. I even help customers taking insights and say, hey, why not put an AI bot on your website to handle these requests on documentation, or something other AI tools can handle that SupportLogic doesn't do. But there's so much information that they can change when you talk about business objectives and look at like, oh man, everyone's requesting this one document. Why don't we put it on their portal or on our website or something, or a place where they can easily access it? So we're not, wasting more of our time, which equates to higher dollars on operational expenses. So it's pretty exciting, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said the evil D word, dispositions. So that one a little bit. And we all know dispositions. After a call, an agent takes a call. They've got to choose from a topic of what the conversation was about. Maybe there's some subtopics. Maybe there's 2 or 3 topics. Maybe it's an open notes field that an agent has to type out. Like, hey, just talk to John Doe about his tractor, and this is what was wrong. And that could soak up a lot of time. That could also be very subjective. It's like whatever the agent is feeling in that moment. Or if an agent's really not happy with their job, they may just like not do the dispositions. Mail it in, or just kind of click or copy and paste a bunch of stuff. Or you might get the opposite. You might have someone who's super engaged with their job. Like an agent will just fill out like a novel where no one's ever going to read it, and no one's ever going to like think to go to that agent and say, hey, what actually happened on that call? So just very interesting of where pre-AI and pre-analytics, digital and speech analytics, we had to do that. And then we had to trigger a manual survey. We had to do all these manual you had to collect all the feedback in maybe a Google Doc and then send it over to your product team. Like all these manual things that are key to business maybe don't need to exist, or they need to exist in a more automated workflow fashion. So I would be very surprised if there are people on this who are listening to this podcast that don't have that problem today. And I've heard the word auto disposition so many different times. It's just no one really does it. No company does it really well, and no company really creates a workflow behind it. So identify what the conversation was like, toss it into some field somewhere and put it in a CRM, but like actually do something with it is more valuable. So talk to us a little bit about SupportLogic and how those workflows work. Is it like a UI where you can say like, hey, when these levers or these like thresholds are too high, like customer sentiment's bad and the word refund gets thrown out a bunch, then trigger some emails to supervisors or some alerts? Like tell us a little bit about how that workflow automation happens.
Yeah, so SupportLogic right now is for management team members. So it's not directly for agents. And every customer is different. But basically, we sit down and we ask them, what alerts, it could be keyword alerts, it could be sentiment alerts, it could be customer health scores or the health of the customer in general, if you have VIP customers or premium, customers. So we really have to understand what matters most to them And the workflows could be simply alerts that, could be emailed, could be via Slack, via Teams. Most customers we have, they're either on Slack or Teams, and they like that the best.
Yeah.
As far as emails, everyone gets hundreds of emails a day, including myself. So the alerts are probably the best. Most customers, they have management who live, it's a separate UI, who live in our platform, and it's an overlay to a customer's CRM or ticketing platform. And either certain managers can live in it daily. Some only want to go into it when they get an alert. Some executives only want to go into it if they get a call with a customer or from a customer.
Mm-hmm.
They want to understand what's going on, and it gives a great, summary about it. But the workflows are basically around the alerting and insights and signal extraction on what each customer actually wants to receive or get. And every manager is different. And then as you go up the levels, everyone wants specific requests. But they love it because most companies, they have their agents living in CRM. They try to make their managers live in CRM too.
Yep.
But we've all used Salesforce, and I love you, Salesforce, but sometimes it's a little tough on getting the right information all summed up for you without creating custom reports, whatever. Because SupportLogic, it's not a historical reports GUI or a BI. It's, a real time, if it was real, living, breathing AI platform for management.
Yeah, that's interesting. So more like kind of looking at all of this more like at high level, just where you see the industry moving, and with companies adopting proactive versus reactive and things like that. Like where are you bumping up against the will to not change, or do you see a lot of companies wanting this? Where do you kind of see the industry going over the next year to 2 years?
Yeah, so it's definitely a newer mentality that I've seen, in the past probably year on, hey, we're now a proactive support center or proactive customer experience. And, customer experience, customer service have been around for hundreds of years.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone's, looking at the next best thing. And right now it's leveraging AI and creating a more proactive customer experience now. The past 5 years, it used to be, omni-channel. We have to have all the channels and we got to be where the customers are at. We got to get that going. Okay, now we want to front end conversations with conversational AI to take care of all the easy stuff. Now it's about, okay, how can we be proactive now instead of reactive and get ahead of some of the escalations or issues that may arise, and being more predictive as well. So I'm seeing it right now as people still like testing the waters. It's kind of a mentality shift. And when that happens, it's kind of like understanding there also has to be a process shift within the support and success organization. And understanding how to leverage a technology like SupportLogic and a few other AI technologies. But they still have to make that shift organizationally inside.
Yeah, it's got to be hard because I know the companies some are still adopting Omni, right? Or
I know.
barely getting into that realm. And then, we talk about, support experience, and just it's moving fast. And that's where I think there's going to be companies that are going to be left behind very quickly if they're not if they're not keeping up, because they'll just become irrelevant on the support side.
Fast. Like technology I'm trying to keep up myself. And before I was always ahead. I was always proactive. Now I'm like, oh my God, probably next year is around holographic customer experience. They're going to see Michael Jackson at the bank greet me, take my deposit, and then say goodbye. I mean, that technology is coming. The 4D, the 5D customer experience, smart cities, probably in the next 5 years, like it's coming. And so I hear you on companies still I still see companies still on voice only, and they're trying to just look at chat. And I'm like, whoo, we got to get you up, omni-channel. And then companies still looking at AI, and AI is, I feel like there's lots of AI solutions, and companies are still trying to figure out one, where to start, and maybe leverage one, and then maybe a couple. So we're still in that how to use AI right now phase.
Yep, exactly. What are your thoughts about changing and transitioning the viewpoint of a customer service organization from a cost center to maybe a revenue generating center? So maybe infusing AI, maybe it's SupportLogic, maybe it's someone else, for upsell and cross-sell opportunities, not only retention and saving, the lifetime value of a customer, but also increasing the lifetime value of a customer. Is that here? Is that, has it been here for a while? Is that in the near future? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, we're actually getting that a lot, and we can extract any data a customer wants us to extract. So we actually have a lot more requesting that. And one could be upselling them in premium support. So if a customer submits 10 cases a month or calls in, 10 times a week, hey, and they're not on premium support, we need to upsell them to premium support. And here's why. They'll have all that data from us. Upsell, it could be upselling a product, or anything that they can envision. So that's definitely the path that people are going to, is now they're bringing their sales team and saying, hey, we can extract this information for you guys. Here you go. Okay, go upsell them.
So it can be used as a sales tool, which is, that'll help sell it to the executives, right? That are looking at it as a cost center, to kind of transitioning it over to, well, if you bring in sales to it, we can actually make it profitable, right? And pay for the solution, as well as all the other areas where we talked about today, and, being able to put money where it's needed, and not kind of, throwing the dart and like, well, I hope it's this 8%, because if it's not,
it's 8% this month, 5% next month. On the upsell, we usually see it, the CSMs or TAMs or account managers, whatever companies call those titles, that actually have a quota to hit to upsell. So having that data being sent to you is invaluable, because no one wants to comb through interactions or cases or calls to try to figure out if, can I upsell this customer or not? So what's happening is people are moving towards AI, because AI is like our assistant. I don't know about you, but I hate inputting data into my CRM, or researching for a full day on information that I need, or creating a report where I have to stay up till 11 p.m. for the next day. What we want white glove service via AI to hand us this information. Hey, I need information about this. Boom. All I could ever need and want is in front of my face. Okay, here we go. Now let's rock and roll. So I think everyone is moving, just as people in general. And that could be because all of our attention spans are shorter. We're kind of like that instant kind of people now. Give it to me now, people. So people are using AI for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things we like to do as we wrap up, and I thought this is the antithesis of what you were talking about earlier about a bad customer experience. We always like to wrap it up with a good customer experience that you've had out there in the world, and you can name the company because it's a good experience. So if you have any examples that come to top of mind over the last few months or weeks or whatever it might be, where you're like, I was wowed by the customer experience or the support. Do you have any examples like that you could share with us that warm your heart?
So I have a bunch, and let me think of one. I would have to say the bank I use, which is US Bank. So I've been a customer for a very long time. They have been evolving technology, and they always have ongoing projects on improving the customer experience. So it's happening.
Mhm.
But I don't never go into a branch. I use their mobile app for everything. And there was a glitch on their mobile app, I think a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, oh man, what the heck? Can't log in, trying to send money to my brother. It was his birthday. I'm like, oh, dang it. I don't want to go into a branch. I don't want to call either. I just want to do it. So it was down. And they have it in their app where you can say if there's an issue or whatever. And I was like, yeah, there's an issue. And someone proactively reached out to me, like called me, said, hey, I got this alert, said you're having problems on the mobile app. Can I help you right now until, we fix the mobile app problems? I'm like, wow, yes, here's what I'm trying to do. And I was like multitasking. I'm, working. I don't want to go anywhere. I just want to get it done. And she helped me. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. Thank you. So every company, you're going to have issues pop up. Your mobile app's not working. Your website's not working. Maybe your product has an issue. Things are going to come in. And I think the best advice I would give is figure out a way to be more proactive, because I was upset, frustrated. I'm like, oh, it's so inconvenient to go to a branch now. I'm spoiled with this app. And I was like, oh, I was dreading it. And then I got a call proactively, and it totally changed the mindset. And I think that's the power people really need to aim for is that mindset of customers.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great story. And I love hearing it, because usually when I find is like the enterprise companies, sometimes they can be terrible, but a lot of times they're actually way ahead of the game because they have the resources to do these things. So it's good. Yeah. Another bank story. Yeah, we've had a slew of examples, but that was a good one. I appreciate that. Nice. But Jessica, it's been great having you on, and you're a wealth of information, and thanks for joining us today.
Yes, thank you all. And anyone can find me on LinkedIn. I pretty much live there on a daily basis.
LinkedIn, you're one of the OGs of LinkedIn with your branding. Well, thanks again, Artie. Always a pleasure.
Alex, always a pleasure. Jessica, thank you so much for everything you do for the customer experience world. And thanks for being a guru and joining our podcast today. And for everyone listening, thanks for joining to listen to another Cloud podcast. Join us next week for another episode.
Take care. Well, that wraps up the show for today. Thanks for joining. And don't forget to join us next week as we bring another guest in to talk about the trends around cloud contact center and customer experience. Also, you can find us at adleradvisors.com, LinkedIn, or your favorite podcast platform. We'll see you next week on another Cloud podcast.